Joined by the ABC's Michael Vincent, who's been following the latest twists and turns in this story. Michael, what's the latest?
Well, the latest is that Wikileaks supporters, Julian Assange supporters, have gathered outside the Ecuadorian embassy to create a ring of protection should Julian Assange be taken from that diplomatic mission by the British authorities forcefully. This all goes back to this morning. The very start of the day here in Australia, there was a live press conference beamed out of Ecuador. The Foreign Minister there, Ricardo Patiño, is expected to announce their decision on whether to grant Julian Assange asylum or not. Instead, he delivered a broadside at British authorities for a letter they'd received from the British overnight. That note sent by UK Foreign Office to Ecuador says, "You need to be aware that there is a legal basis that would allow us to take actions in order to arrest Mr Assange in the current premises of the embassy. We sincerely hope that we do not reach that point. But if you are not capable of resolving this matter, this is an option open for us." Now, Ricardo,
it's extraordinary.
It's extraordinary. They're basically saying your sovereignty, your embassy is no longer protected by international convention. This is the Ecuadorians have taken a massive affront to this. They've released a statement which says, "We are deeply shocked by the British government's threats against the sovereignty of the Ecuadorian embassy and their suggestion that they may be forcibly to enter the embassy. It's a clear breach of the international law and the Vienna Convention." The statement goes on to say the Ecuadorian government has acted honourably to seek a resolution, in stark contrast to the escalation of the British government. Ricardo Patiño actually used the word assault, not enter, but used the word assault and all the violent implications that that word carries. Here in Australia, Ecuador's ambassador to Australia has said the threat is disproportionate, unacceptable, and it takes diplomatic relations back to the Stone Age.
Now, we know some of the people who are camped out there in front of the Ecuadorian embassy have been streaming live pictures on the internet, and we've been seeing people coming and going. It's really difficult to decipher whether they're police. There was a pizza guy apparently involved. Someone suggested that the pizza guy was Julian Assange. It's descended into a circus.
It has become a bit of a circus. If the whole strategy, if the whole legal strategy now that he's failed in the British courts was to create a win in the court of public opinion, creating this kind of circus and diplomatic row is playing straight into Julian Assange's hands. Outside the embassy, you've got people preparing. This is in the early hours of the morning, preparing to protect him, to save him from any British officials. The British Home Office has told Reuters that even if they wanted to enter the embassy, they have to, under their own law, give them a week's notice that they're going to revoke the official status of the embassy and that they would only then go in. This all relates to an amendment to a law back in 1987, which was created in extreme circumstances. A Libyan diplomat leaned out of a window in their mission in London and shot up protesters and killed a British policewoman. So they made an amendment to their act saying that they could go into diplomatic premises under extreme circumstances.
On national security, on which these
Exactly. This legal opinion here in Australia, international legal experts here in Australia saying that this is not a matter of national security. This is a matter of someone who is facing questioning, not even charges, questioning in another country, and who believes he fears being extradited to the United States. On that basis, the Ecuadorians are considering granting him political asylum. However, this is the sticking point. Even if he was granted political asylum, there's the question of how he would get from the embassy into a car to an airport and off to Ecuador. Some wags have been saying, you could see a big diplomatic pouch with a, snorkel coming out the top, heading off outside the doors. The reality is he cannot get outside that embassy without being arrested. A diplomatic car or vehicle is still able to be searched by British police. There is about reportedly a dozen police there on the premises. There appears to be, without a legal undertaking from the UK, which they've already said they'll deny, you can give someone a right of safe passage, a political asylum seeker, a right of
diplomatic immunity, but only if their status is not stripped from them.
Exactly. So even if he leaves as being granted political asylum in Ecuador, he would still be arrested outside the door. Some people have suggested, again, he could be granted not just political asylum, he could be made an Ecuadorian citizen. He could be given Ecuadorian diplomatic status of some sort. These are all very extreme moves, and again, it plays into this whole circus and uproar about just how this case is going to be resolved, and we should hopefully find out late Australian time tonight.
Why would Ecuador go to this much trouble for a man who's causing them this much diplomatic harm?
Well, you've got to see Ecuador's politics. Ecuador's politics are anti-American. They're part of the Bolivarian bloc in South America. They're good friends with people like Hugo Chavez in Venezuela and other anti-American politicians in that part of the world. President Rafael Correa was interviewed by Julian Assange earlier this year for Julian Assange's Russian TV show. He called him "my dear Julian." So there's a rapport between the two. And the president has said that welcome Julian to the club of the persecuted. In terms of politics, they seem to be on the same side. And by going to these lengths, by giving Julian Assange this platform to draw attention to his case internationally, they seem to be playing into the legal position of being able to give him a chance to, hopefully, they believe, get him out of the country. But it doesn't appear the Brits are willing to play along.
All right, Michael Vincent, thank you for that update. Moving to